So let me bring up the test switch. Here is our switch 1, and then let's make sure that we can ping our ACS server from our switch, sourcing from our loopback 0. You can see it's pingable. Now we can start our TACACS and AAA configuration. Just keep in mind that the syntax might be slightly different depending on your platform and iOS version. Here, this is based on a 3750 running 12.255. Okay, so start off with creating a username. I'm going to keep it simple with Cisco Purge 15 secret Cisco. Okay, the first command we're going to do is IP TAC X Source interface, and we say we want to source all the TACACS traffic or requests from loopback 0. Next, we'll specify the TAC X Server with the host IP of 772.16.32.100, which is our ACS server. If you look under TAC X Server and do question mark, there's a couple of configuration or options that you can do. One is retransmit, and how many times you want the switch to keep trying the ACS before marking it as unreachable. So by default it's 2, let's change it to 3. And you can also do TAC X Server key, which is important. You need to specify the key, and we have it configured as Cisco. So let's take a look at the TACACS command we have, and by default there's an option for directed requests. And you can see if you look at the description up here is to allow user to specify TAC X Server when you do add server. So that's maybe something you not want the user to do. So let's go ahead and remove that. Next, we create a AAA group. Actually, you first need to do AAA new model to enable all the AAA related command, and then AAA group server protocol TACACS, and we'll give it a name called ACS1, and then you have to provide the server IP, so I say 216.32.100. And again, if you want to specify a different source IP for this particular ACS server, you can do so, but just basically override the global configuration right here at the device level. Now that we have our TACACS ACS servers defined, let's go ahead and do our AAA authentication command. With AAA authentication, then we have Lockin for device admin, and then default, we choose group, and we give it a group name called ACS1. And then if you wanted to fall back to local user, we can do that too when the ACS is not reachable. Then we do AAA authentication enable. Again, similar syntax, group ACS1 enable. So it's just to enable the fallback of the enable password to the local enable password. And then you have AAA authentication, or actually authorization. And this is to allow the user to be dropped into their corresponding privilege level. So exact, default, group ACS1, and as a fallback option, we're going to do if authenticated. So if the ACS is not reachable, as long as the user can be successfully authenticated, then we're going to allow it to be assigned the whatever privilege the user account has. Okay, then we're just going to enable AAA accounting just to keep track of the sessions and as well as the commands. So we do accounting exec default start stop, and let's do broadcast in case you have multiple ACS server and you want to broadcast the accounting information to all of the servers, and then group ACS1. Then we do AAA accounting. You want to keep track of all the command that's been entered. So accounting command, and then we have to select the command level privilege or privilege level. Let's do level 1, default, again, start, stop, broadcast, group ACS1. And then we're going to repeat that. It should be ACS1. Then we're going to repeat the command for privilege level 15, and then enter. Okay, let's just double check what we have entered so far for the AAA command. Here we have authentication, authorization, accounting for exec, and accounting for commands. Okay, so that should be ready to go. And the way to perform a quick test is to issue command test AAA group ACS1, and then we have to provide the username. So we're gonna just use our admin1 user, or test user. So admin1, and for password, we give it Cisco, and then ends with legacy. Enter. You can see no authoritative response from any user message is displayed to us. So what we can do as part of troubleshooting, we can go to the monitoring and report, open that, and then under catalog, AAA protocols, just to monitor success or failure that we have for TACACS authentication. So click TACACS authentication. Okay, and you can see a bunch of red here. Red obviously means failure. And if you look at the failure reason, it's that the ACS has received a TACACS packet from an unknown network device. And if you remember at the beginning of the ACS configuration, we intentionally input an incorrect device IP. So if you go back to the network device, and then if you look at the switch, we said the IP of the device is 0.4, but while in fact it's actually 0.1. I just want to show you what it looks like when the ACS does not recognize the source of the request. So now let's go ahead and correct that to 0.1. Okay, and let's try that test command one more time. You can see now at least we're getting some response back, although it said rejected. So let's do a quick troubleshooting here. And let's go back and make sure also that our Active Directory integration is still good. You can see right here it's still disconnected for some reason. So let's go back and try to join it back. You can see it becomes unhealthy because there's a clock skew. I thought we'd check that, but let's see why. On our switch, let's do show clock. That seems to be correct. So now let's SSH to the. I'm sure if you go ahead and join that, it will come back and say it's not possible. You see right here, it failed due to clock skew. That means our clock on our ACS is off. So let's log into our ACS and take a look. Well, you can see the difference of the clock, which is 12:36, and compared to our server's 12:29 is greater than 5 minutes. So I'm not sure how that happened there. So let's fix that real quick. But again, let's just give you a chance to see how the time synchronization is very important. So let's update this manually. Change date and time, and then just put 3.6. Okay, and let's go back and test it one more time. Get a little bit of troubleshooting exercise here. Username is actually ACS Cisco test. I think it's ACS AD maybe test. There you go. So now the clock skew problem has been fixed, and we can just try to join it one more time. Okay, now it's become joined and connected. So let's go back to the switch and then issue that command with a test. And you can see now the user is successfully authenticated. All right, so that's pretty much verified that we have a good communication between the switch and the ACS server. Now we can actually start testing the user lock-in. So let's telnet to the switch loopback from itself. Now we get the LM username, which is the customized prompt that we did during our web interface walkthrough video. Now we're going to lock in with the admin1 account and Cisco. You can see we get drops right into the privilege 15 of the enable mode prompt. Okay, let's do a few command here, or some show commands, and we're just going to look at later how the command that we issue here gets accounted for on the ACS. So let's keep going. So that's one admin1 user account. Okay, now we're going to test the support one. So again, Telnet to itself, and then we use support one, and then Cisco. And you can see the authentication failed because we have the shell profile as deny. So support one is not able to lock in as expected. Next, we're going to try the local one account. So we do local 1, and then we did Cisco 123. You can see, if you remember, again at the beginning of the video when we created the local one, we have the change password checked. I guess we have to create a new one right here. Change password and next login check. That's why it's prompting us for to enter a new password. So let's do Cisco. And if you exit and then trying to get back in, again, let's do local 1, and then password this time we use the new password, Cisco, and we get dropped right into the privilege 15. Okay, then the last test we're going to do is using local 2, and local 2 should be deny login access, which it did. Alright, now let's go back to ACS and review some logs. Start off with, again, we are still at the TACACS authentication log, and let's go through this real quick. We got some greens and red here. So the first green we got is the admin 1 right here, and then we try support 1, and you can see where it said the show profile is deny access. And then we try with the local 1, and we were able to successfully log in, and again in local 2 it was deny access by the show profile. Okay, now let's go back and look at the authorization log. And here for all the successful login attempts, since we're authorizing the exact, you can see show profile is per 15 max 15 for admin 1 and the 2 times that we use local 1 to log in. And we can just dig into the details, and you can see exactly what's the TACACS attribute that was returned to the switch. In this case, it's priv-lvl equal 15. Okay, and that's how the priv 15 get assigned from the ACS to the switch and the user. Okay, the last thing I want to look at is the TACACS accounting. Since we turn on accounting for both exec and command, you can see for every single command that we enter into the switch, it gets locked right here, which is first when we were locking as admin 1, we did config T and then trying to get into the FAS 101 and then do a show IP interface. Okay, when we logged in as a local 1, then we did the show privilege, and all of those are logged by the accounting. Okay, so everything is working as expected for switch 1. Now we're going to move on to our second test device, which is firewall. Okay, so let me bring up the console to the firewall, and again, let's check a network connectivity back to ACS just to make sure, and we do have, or we can ping from the firewall to the ACS. Now we're going to start configuring the AAA. So the first command is to define the ACS server. Again, the command is AAA server, and then we give it the name TACACS with the protocol. You can see ASA actually support multiple authentication protocol. For us, it's going to use TACACS. If you want to broadcast your accounting information to multiple ACS server, then you would do accounting mode simultaneous. There we go, AAA accounting and TACACS. If your TACACS server or the ACS server happens to be located off the interface other than inside, then you need to specify that, or you can also just specify inside because by default it's inside. And then specify the IP of your ACS server. And under that, you have different options. One would be timeout. So how long you want ASA to wait for the ACS to reply, which is between 1 and 300 seconds, which is going to give it 2. And then we have to give it a key of Cisco. Okay, so that's how you define the ACS server. Next, we're going to enable AAA authentication for enable console, and then you specify which server to use, which is TACACS, and then fall back to local. Then we do HTTP, looks like a typo there, and then SSH, and might as well just do Telnet, although again not recommended to use Telnet. For testing purposes, that's fine. And then we're going to turn on AAA authorization. You can see we have an option of exact, just like on the switch, and we'll specify that we want to use authentication server for that. Enter. Now we're going to do accounting. So AAA accounting. First we do command, and we just want to account for privilege 15 command to, again, our server called TACACS. And then we want to account for, let's see, question mark, we can do enable. So enable console, and then TACACS, and account. Let's see what else we can do. SSH Telnet. So let's do also HTTP. So SSH console TACACS, and then Telnet, also console TACACS. Now, in order to allow users to, or us to Telnet or HTTP to the ASA, we need to allow that with the command Telnet. Since we're going to be testing it from our domain controller 32.40, then we're going to have to allow, let's just allow the whole 172.16 subnet. Same thing, HTTP, since we're going to use our ASDM to test as well. But first we need to enable HTTP server, and then allow the IP subnet. And you specify the interface, which is inside. Okay, so now we're going to perform our Telnet test from a switch. So let's make sure the switch can ping the firewall 16.10.252. And it can. You can do Telnet 16.10.252. Enter. Okay, we get a username prompt. You can see the prompt wasn't the same as the prompt that we got from the switch, so it's not customized, and this is the fact that we're doing on the ASA. So username is, we're going to use admin1 for the start, and then Cisco. You can see we get drops into the exec mode prompt. Just to make a quick note, if you do show current privilege, you can see how it said the current privilege is level 1. Although we used the ASA is supposed to pass down privilege 15 down to ASA, it's just the fact that it's being a firewall, it doesn't really honor that. So you still have to go through the enable password, and then Cisco, and now we dropped into privilege level 15. So the ASA always forced the user to go through the enable password just to get into the privilege 15. Okay, now we can just do a few commands, config t, interface E00, show interface IP brief, and later I'm just going to check on the accounting. So now let's exit, and then let's try the Telnet one more time. Okay, this time I'm going to use support 1 and Cisco, and you can see it's not getting through. That's fine because we are denying login access from a user support 1. Next we're going to try the local 1 account. Okay, Telnet and then local 1, Cisco. And again, although the privilege 15 is supposed to be passed down, it's still dropped into the exact mode and requires an enable password. So we'll do enable. We still on Cisco 123 for that. And now we dropped into the enable mode. Okay, the last test is for our local 2, Cisco. And again, we're failing on that. Okay, now let's go back and review our logs. Let's again start off with the authentication log. You can see now the device name has changed from the switch to the firewall, so we were able to log in with admin1 and then fail on support 1 because the show profile is deny access, and succeeded on local 1 and again fail on local 2 as expected. Okay, now we're going to look at authorization. And again, for the one that has firewall 1, we pass on admin 1 and then we pass on local 1. And just to prove that the ACS was trying to push down TACACS attribute for privilege level 15 right here, the ASA just did not honor that. To verify the TACACS accounting, you get network device firewall 1, and these are some of the commands that we issue when we logged in as admin 1. Okay, the last thing I want to test is locking in through HTTP by using the ASDM launcher here. Okay, we're going to use admin1 account, and then Cisco, and then OK. Continue, just not trusting the certificate. And now you can see we can successfully log in since the ASDM is trying to launch the application. Okay, and now we're in the ASD. So just to kind of wrap up here, I want to show you when you go back to the authorization policy and the authorization, you can see there's a hit counts. So every time any one of these rules gets matched, it will increment on the hit count. So this will also be something that you might want to use as part of your troubleshooting as well, and make sure that the rule or the correct rule is matched. And if you click on the hit count button right here, you can see there's also hit count for deny, since we got denied 4 times. And you can refresh because the hit count gets refreshed only every 15 minutes. So if you want the latest hit counts value, then you definitely want to manually refresh that, or you can even reset that to 0, just like we did right here. So that wraps up our video on ACS 5.4 TACACS device admin on switch and ASA. You can visit our website to view an extensive list of our lab videos and sign up to get access to additional lab contents. Thank you for watching LabMinutes.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video.